Well, it's the first week of December here. Winter has yet to arrive for more than a few days at a time. It's more like early November, wet and a little bit gray. Short days, so the longer hikes are tough this time of year. And the rain came mostly last night. It's mid-morning and it's pretty much done. So we're going to do a couple shorter hikes today. I've got this one planned first. This is called Roaring Brook Falls. It's about 3/4 of a mile from that sign there. And this is in New Haven County, Connecticut. This is the town of Cheshire. About 15 miles inland from Long Island Sound and north of New Haven, Connecticut by about 15 miles. So we're going to see what's along here. I know we had a lot of rain last night, and this is a pretty small brook. But with a lot of rain, it could be living up to its name, Roaring Brook. This is supposed to be one of the largest waterfalls in height in the state of Connecticut at 80 feet high. So let's go back here and see what we can find and see what can brighten up a gray day today as we hike. Now, there's a mountain back there that this stream tumbles down. It's kind of being eclipsed by the clouds right now. The summit is. It's supposed to have limited views because of the tree cover. One thing that could brighten up our day today, it's a little far away here. And this plant has showed up on this channel before. On my paddling trips and hiking trips. That's our winterberry holly with those beautiful red pea-sized fruits. So we'll see if Roaring Brook is living up to its name. You can see if we can get close enough to it to get some nice footage of it. And see if we can find some bright red berries and some greenery and the lichens that glow after the rain to brighten up a gray morning. Well, it's obvious from all this water distributing itself across this trail here that there's plenty coming over the falls. So I think this will be a worthwhile hike today. The rain has mostly moved out. There's some scattered showers west of here, but nothing heavy. So I'll tell you what, I don't know if this could really flash flood to the point where you couldn't get through, but it's up right now, and I've had to rock hop from the end of this bridge across this little island here over to here and then back around this way to stay on the trail. But I'd say after extremely heavy rain events, this may be a little tough to do because the bridge ends before the stream does. I think the stream has kind of moved its course over the years. These high gradient streams that push a lot of rock down during high water events, when they get down to the bottom of their courses where it flattens out, they unload all kinds of stuff that can move the channels. So I think this bridge is where the channel used to be, and now the channel is starting to make its way to the left here. And it might require a new bridge or a bridge in a different location. Meanwhile, there's an old chimney over here. Doesn't look that old. It was mortared together. So some of the original settlements in this area go back to the 1600s, and mortar was not being used at the time, at least not mortar as we know it. So we'll continue on here. Got a little more rock hopping to do, and we'll keep exploring this valley up to where this stream tumbles over a layer of what's called dolerite, D-O-L-E-R-I-T-E, which is an intrusive rock that comes up from the Earth's from inside the Earth's crust and forms ridges in this part of Connecticut. And I'm always looking for contrast on the cloudy days with no snow cover. So here's our Christmas fern. It's called Christmas fern because it's green at Christmas time. And these fronds lay down, but they don't really die until the new ones come up in the spring. So it stays green all winter. It's underneath the snow, it's green. And just behind it is our Roaring Brook, which has several different channels it's made at the bottom of this mountain. Where the bridge is just downstream from here, it is splayed out into 3 or 4 different channels, and several of them don't have a bridge across them, so you have to do a little rock hopping to get across at this higher water level. A lot of the gauge readings on the smaller streams around here were up from last night's rain, so I had a pretty good idea there'd be plenty of water coming down this hillside. Here's some more contrast. The mottled bark, the brown, green, and white bark of our sycamore tree. Often the trunks are brown or greenish brown, and as you go up it becomes, the inner bark becomes white with some green in between, just like that. And on this gray day, we're not going to see the beauty of the upper branches, which are often pure white on the larger trees. But our sycamore often grows along streams. It can follow these smaller streams up their water courses from the larger streams. I've seen quite a few of them on the way up here, but it's not dominant. But in some of the larger streams in this country, especially west of here, it forms beautiful groves that are spectacular in the wintertime because the trees are huge, gnarled, and twisted, and make a striking contrast when you look up at the blue sky with the white branches. We're not going to get that today, but let's keep going up the mountain here. I can see some of the smaller cascades just up the valley here that are the introduction to the falls above them. And if you have any doubt why the trail does not hug the stream on the way up this mountain, here's the reason. It's a very narrow slot here. You'd have to walk in the water, especially today, to get up this valley. So you do climb quite a bit away from the water through a nice hardwood forest. Some pretty big trees up there, actually. This area hasn't been cut in a while. We start to see these entrance rapids or exit rapids from the falls themselves. And the trail does get closer to this main plume in the background there, but this is a pretty large falls, but it's not a large stream, so I think we picked the right day to come see it. Obviously in the summer you couldn't get this vantage. On a sunny day it may be back in the shade or in the shadow of the mountain. If it was any colder it may be too icy to see the falls. It would be one big icicle. So I think we picked the right day to come check this place out. I'm sure in early spring when there's no leaves and plenty of rain it would be just as good, and maybe even better with some early spring wildflowers. Meanwhile, we got some tipped layers of I believe this is sandstone here, and the main falls is probably being tripped up by a layer of what's called dolerite, which forms the backbone of the top of this mountain. We'll have to take a better look at these rocks. I can't really tell from here, but that's what the map shows. So let's keep scrambling up this trail. It's a little steep and rooty and rocky, but certainly not difficult at this point. And just a few hundred feet higher up the trail, maybe 50 feet in elevation higher, is a pretty good view of the main falls here, folks. This is probably the best spot to view it from below that I can see. We'll keep climbing though. This trail actually goes up a little bit further to the top of this ridge and intersects what's called the Quinnipiac Trail, which is a through trail that goes through south central Connecticut, mostly on the ridge tops. That trail has many fine views from West Rock Ridge and Sleeping Giant and several other mountains that have state parks and great recreational facilities. But boy, This one I had to look a little harder to find. I didn't know it was here, but I was looking for something to do on a rainy day or after a rainy day, and I started exploring some different websites with waterfalls, and this came up as one of the highest ones in Connecticut. So quite a flume here, quite a bit of water coming over it, quite a bit of geology here, which we can look at in just a minute. Some of the rocks that have been tossed up by these trees definitely show evidence of being sandstone, which is what the geological map shows on the foot of this mountain. And the falls itself may be held up by sandstone, or it may be held up by the dolerite, or diabase is another word for that rock that forms this ridge. This is the same rock that forms West Rock Ridge and Sleeping Giant and several other mountains in this area. This mountain isn't given a name right here. It's called Peck Mountain to the north of here and Sanford Mountain to the south. This is a sedimentary rock here with some quartz and feldspar crystals. And the quartz are the darker, clearer looking minerals. I believe this is a white or a pink feldspar mineral. And it's more than sandstone. These are big enough grains, especially this one right here. This would qualify as a conglomerate, so whatever stream deposited these rocks was moving along at a pretty good clip. And the valley that these rocks were filling up was formed by stretching of the continental crust, and when the crust got stretched thin enough, the diabase, or this magma, came up in the cracks. The dolerite or diabase, which is the same rock, never makes it to the Earth's surface, but stays underground, but does fill up the cracks. If it makes it to the Earth's surface, it's called basalt. I looked at basalt over on Bluff Head, which is part of Totoket Mountain, last year about this time, and I found some basalt that actually cooled so quickly when it came to the Earth's surface that it still had air bubbles in it from the gases that are found in that rock that didn't have time to escape. So that video is still on this channel. It's called Exploring Connecticut's Braymore and Bluff Head Preserves. I think the title is Lava, Ledges, and Lookouts. And the part where I find the rock with holes in it's at the very end of about a half-hour video. So if you don't want to watch the whole thing, there were waterfalls on that hike and lookouts and clear weather as well. So it was an interesting day. But if you just want to see what a rock looks like when the lava cools very quickly, look at the last 3 or 4 minutes of that video and you'll see what I'm talking about. And we've climbed up to the top of the falls here. This trail keeps ascending moderately steeply. Probably 300 or 400 feet in elevation gain to get to the top of the falls from the parking area. Most of the waterfalls I've put on this channel are lesser known and lesser developed with no guardrails. So extra caution has to be taken to get these vantages. But this is the top of the falls, dropping down about 80 feet. You can just see that trail of rapids and white water and foam as it goes down this ridge. We've gained enough elevation. I think on a less foggy day you could get a view from this top of the falls. We have come to the top of the falls. Although there's falls above the falls, it's not just one fall but a whole series. And this is more flumes than falls right here. But we've definitely left a layer of sandstone. And we've got a vertical layer of dolerite, which is an intrusive rock. You crack it open, it's more of a grayish, bluish gray color, but it weathers to this orange color, which makes for a real pretty picture, especially when the lighting's right. And forms the backbone of many of these ridges. I'm going to keep hiking up to where this trail, which is unblazed at this point, it had some faint orange blazes below the falls. Up here there's no blazes, but this is the only trail back here. You're not going to get lost back here. As long as you're near the stream, you're on the trail. Let's go up to the top of the mountain where it intersects the Quinnipiac Trail, then we'll turn around. And the estimate is about 3/4 of a mile from the parking lot up to the Quinnipiac Trail here. And anybody that's done a lot of hiking in Connecticut, the Blue Blaze is your friend. And many of the Blue Blaze trails I think are easier to follow than they used to be. A lot of them have been reblazed. Some of them have been rerouted to more interesting locations from the original routes and avoided some of the steepest areas. So this light blue blaze is our friend. Sometimes they're painted and sometimes they're plastic rectangles. But I'm very impressed with the trail system in Connecticut, the ones I've had a chance to explore. I've never found a lack of blazes or proper trail maintenance. So this is our Quinnipiac Trail. It goes north a few more miles from here and then terminates. The southeast terminus is on Sleeping Giant. It isn't on West Rock. I made that mistake when commenting on that trail a few minutes ago. There's a different trail that follows West Rock Ridge, but the two do intersect at the north end of West Rock. So here we got another waterfall right by the Quinnipiac Trail here. This one alone is pretty interesting on a rainy day. There's quite a bit of water. It's a 20-foot drop. And this is just the entrance rapids to a much larger drop. And one of the largest waterfalls in the state of Connecticut is as far as the actual height of the drop. Kent Falls drops over 200 feet, but it's a series of falls. That one's well known and very popular and usually runs out of parking on a busy day. So this one doesn't have a lot of room for parking at the bottom, but it's also lesser known. We're going to continue these adventures. I got a couple more planned for this afternoon, about 10 miles west of here, and I'll be looking at some lookouts and some waterfalls depending on whether this fog lifts.